Welcome in, my fellow exiles. Today we're going to talk about mining. Now, I have a list of notes of how much everything is worth in the mines. Everything I could think of. And for reference, I have been using the mines to get my mage blood for the last several leagues, so I have done a lot of delving. And so today I'm going to share the knowledge that I've gained with you. That's right. So, I have mapped out everything worth anything in Delve. Let's talk about Azurite, because Azurite is the easiest way to make money in Delve. It's the most obvious way to make money in Delve, and I have crunched the numbers, okay? I have crunched the numbers based off of week 2 in 327 Keepers of the Flame. That's right. Delve is not worth quite as much as it was last league. Last league, Delve was worth a lot more, so these numbers are going to be on the lower end for sure. If you are trying to make money in Delve, the easiest and best thing you can do is farm these Azurite cavities. Now, this has a little 1 next to it, and all of these numbers are going to be relative to around 300 to 350 depth. That is the optimal farming range per Jorgen, who is a great Delve YouTuber. 300 to 350 is ideal because it has a good ratio of sulfite cost to rewards. So that is the recommendation that I've seen from a lot of people here on YouTube, a lot of delvers in particular, so that's where we're going to go with. Those are where I'm going to base my price off of. Now, tier 1 Azurite node gives you around 700 Azurite. So if we think about that in terms of chaos, each one of these primitive resonators, and I have mathed out all 3 of these, and they vary with which one is the most efficient to buy, but none of them are ever worth that much more than the tiny 1-socket resonators. The 1-socket resonators are generally your best bang for your buck. If you really want to math it out, it varies within the league, but typically the 1-socket resonators. I don't ever buy anything else because this is the most efficient one to buy. I would say 90% of the time. So 300 Azurite, which means if this gives you 700 Azurite, you are getting, and the cost of these is generally 2.5 chaos per. Now, that's going to change depending on the league. That's where the math is going to vary. But I would say this is a very typical price of 2.5 chaos per, which means that this is a little over 2 resonators. So you are getting, I would estimate, about 6 chaos per 1 node here, right? Because it's just over 2 resonators, so I would say about 6 chaos. Now, if we look at the tier 2 Azurite, this one is going to give, on average, about 1200 Azurite, which means it's about 10 chaos. So if you think about which ones of these are worth your time, especially if you want to go out of your way, because the general strategy for making money in Delve is to get to between 300 and 350, and then you just go sideways. So you'll notice here, I was going down, 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 and then I got to 317 and said, okay, now I'm just going sideways. So that is the general shape of how you want to travel. And these tier 2 will give you about 10 chaos per. So it doesn't take too long to do. 10 chaos is still some money, right? So if you want to think about how to be the most efficient, how to get the most chaos per minute, about 10 chaos, I would say, is solid. It's fine. Tier 3 nodes, which you've got one right here, they take a little bit longer, and they give you, on average, about 1800 Azurite, which is about 15 chaos. So you get about 15 chaos per tier 3. So if you think about 6 chaos compared to 15 chaos, like, you probably don't want to go out of your way to do these tiny nodes because they don't give you that much. 15 chaos, probably worth your time. If you do enough of them, it all adds up, right? The things that make the most money in Delve is Aul the Crystal King, which unfortunately I don't have one here, but it looks like a little blue box. And then these minion nodes are a great gamble. So we are going to do one together, and I will show you what it looks like. Alright, so we've made it to the minion node. Now, the minion node is always the exact same encounter. It's always the necromancy site. And you can see here we have 2 grim armor boxes and 1 grim jewelry. Now, for the grim armor boxes, What we're looking for is chess pieces that say +1 to maximum number of specters. Those are at least worth a couple divines. Depending on the base you get it on, it can be worth a lot more. So it's always worth doing and seeing if you can get one of those chess pieces. The other thing that you can get here is you can get a convoking wand, so a minion damage wand that has minions are aggressive, and it can drop fractured, and if you drop a fractured minions are aggressive, that is 40 divines easily. Okay, so you also want to keep an eye out for that. You can see here we have a +1 max number of skeletons armor. That's not going to be worth anything. This one is also skeletons. So we had a miss here on these. And then we have some amulets. And it's always worth just price checking all of these things. Just in case there's some mod that's really worth something this time around. But I don't think I hit anything worth anything, unfortunately. The other thing that I think is the most profitable to do in Delve are these crystal spires. Now, the reason why I think it's the most profitable is because the time to money efficiency here is crazy. This is the easiest node in all of Delve. The crystal spire drops a fossil that, depending on the league, is worth a little bit more or less. I think last I checked, this fossil is worth like 80 chaos. Little more than half a divine right now. Divine... Oh, what the? Okay. Thanks, game. Delve is profitable, what can I say? This is literally just a spire that you have to kill, and if you can kill the spire fast, then it doesn't even shoot out any rares. And you can see that took me 15 seconds to do. I got a hollow fossil, and let's see what the hollow fossil is worth right now. Hollow fossil is worth only 50 chaos, so this is pretty low for this league, I will say. This is one of the lower costs I've ever seen for the hollow fossil, but it took me less than 30 seconds to do for 50 chaos. I would say that's a good deal. Those are my favorite nodes for sure. There are 3 special fossils that I think are worth doing. The first one you saw is the crystal spire. The last time I sold the crystal spire was yesterday, and that was worth 90 chaos. So somehow it went down 40 chaos in price in one day. Just keep an eye on it, because the prices on that one are typically higher than what we just saw. The next one is the Time Lost Cavern, which I saved a node for right here. This one is typically worth doing, but let's talk about why it might not be. So, I did a node for Time Lost Cavern yesterday. This one drops a glyphic fossil. The glyphic fossil has been worth divines before. Same with the crystal spire fossil. That one has been worth multiple divines before. There was one league where I farmed it was worth 2 divines. So you do a 15-second delve node and you get 2 divine. That's crazy. The Time Lost Cavern, the glyphic fossil, when I did it yesterday, I sold it for 20 chaos. Now, you might think to yourself, 20 chaos is 20 chaos, and I would typically agree with you, except that the Time Lost Cavern is one of the most annoying encounters for me personally in Delve. That's because you're fighting 4 very beefed out essence mobs at once. So you see here, we've got some essence mobs. These have 4 essences, energy shield aura, 3 essences, 2 essences. So this encounter is taking me quite a while, all things considered, because this guy has energy shield aura and is a pain. Keep in mind you can also use your dynamite to just attack it, and it deals damage. Then you can discover a glyphic fossil, and we will price check the glyphic fossil. I have glyphic fossil, I want chaos, this is worth 25. 25 chaos is still worth doing. Just keep in mind that it's a very annoying node, you know, as if the price gets worse, it might not be. The last one that's worth doing, that I don't have right now, but I did have earlier, is a molten cavity. You can see right here, this was a molten cavity. Molten cavity drops a faceted fossil. Faceted fossil right now is worth at least 80 C. So that one is definitely worth doing. You have to fight a big fire boss. He can be pretty scary if you're not careful. You just don't want to let him hit you, like, not even a little bit. You run away from him the whole time. That's how I typically play it, because he deals a lot of damage. There are a couple other special fossils that you can keep an eye out for, like the humid fissure I started doing the other day, a fractured fossil, 15 chaos. The other ones I don't think are worth doing. I typically just look out for those three: the Time Lost Cavern, the Magma, the Molten Cavity, and the Crystal Spire. Now let's talk about bosses, because Aul is the best way to make money in the game. Aul's drops include this amulet that can be worth anything from like 10C to 50 divine, depending on what you get. You just have to price check it. Some of them are worth a lot of money, so it's definitely worth doing. And he drops this one, the Uprising, 60% of the time. So 60% of the time, you'll get a amulet that could be worth 50 divine, which is great. Crown of the Tyrant is 15% of the time, and this is also worth a lot of money. Crown of the Tyrant right now is worth 5 divine. So 15% of the time you get 5 divine, 60% of the time you could get a lot of divine. These rings can be worth, like this one, Putembo's Mountain, is typically worth a divine. Luminous Trove is worth some money as well. The other bosses, like the Grand Architect's Temple right here, I don't always do. Now this one, this fight takes a while, and he doesn't always drop something worth money. 40% of the time, he drops the Curiosity. The Curiosity is typically worth about 40 chaos. Right now, the Curiosity is worth 5 chaos, so this ain't worth anything. So, you get the Curiosity, it's not really worth anything. These rings sometimes are worth some money, not usually. Cerberus Limb isn't worth anything. Doriani's Machinarium I don't think is worth anything anymore. Doriani's Machinarium is worth money, so it is like 1.5 divine. You have a 15% chance to make 1.5 divine. So that's up to you whether you think that's worth it or not. Try the fight, see if it's easy for you to do. Maybe that could be worth money. This guy, Kurgal, the Lich's Tomb, I never do. Kurgal drops some unique items. I don't think any of them are worth it, but let's take a look. These gloves don't really seem worth anything unless you get like a good corrupt on them. You can see people tried for a good corrupt. So it's vol bait. You could always vol it and see how it goes. But I never do this boss because I haven't found it to be profitable. Now, since we've talked about the bosses, we should talk about the cities. Now, the cities are these bordered areas with the little chests on them, and the ones that are almost always worth doing are the blue ones. So these blue ones are typically worth doing because they have a chance to give you a lot of Azurite. Sometimes they'll have a chest in there, and I would say this is quite rare. They'll have a chest in there that gives you like 15,000 Azurite, and obviously that's worth quite a bit of chaos. Otherwise, they'll give you a lot of smaller currencies. You'll get lots of bindings, fusings, chisels, GCPs, maps. Sometimes you can hit divines like I did earlier this league. Oftentimes not. So you can see I don't do every single one of these. The Vol ones and the green one, the Abyssal one, are also sometimes worth doing. They don't ever have the Azurite chest like the blue one, which is what makes the blue one better. But they do have like currency drops, they do have maps, unique jewels. Very rarely they can give you divine, but you never know. 700 soul fight, and you can go through them super fast. Let's take a look at one together. Alright, now I typically go through these very, very quickly, because basically you just open. I got 1 chaos of regal, some stuff in here, just to see if there's anything good, just to move fast, because you have to fight with the darkness down here. Definitely want a phasing flask for this situation. And like I said, I don't usually find anything that's worth anything. Resonator stashes can be really good. They're worth it if you want to go through it like in a quick like 30 seconds. Wow, that's really disappointing. Anyway, now you can see exactly what was in here, which is like worth some chaos, right? Like these small resonators, alt scours, jewelers. There's 2 chaos here. some essences, bunch of fusings you can get in here, so you get smaller currency, right? And very occasionally you'll find a divine or something like that. Next thing worth talking about is some of the special nodes. Let me show you. Echoing layer with animalistic items. I have one of those that I can show you. This one can contain items that are worth a little bit of money. These ones down here, this like physical one, this mana curse one, these ones are worth doing if they're not super out of the way, because some of the items you can get in here are good. Like the physical one has a curse with vulnerability on hit ring that you can get that's worth like 20 chaos. So that can be worth some money. The beast one can give you like aspect of the spider items, and those can be worth some money. Okay, we made it to the beast node, and obviously the encounter is just fighting some beasts. So let's kill them real quick. There we go, we've done it. We make sure we don't die to all the other stuff here. Feral jewelry is pretty good usually. We'll see if it's worth anything. This one is aspect of the avian, which I don't think is good. This one seems to be worth 5 to 10 chaos. Now, just real quick, I'm going to go over some of these smaller things that you might think makes money, or, you know, whatever. These chests here can be hit or miss. Sometimes they have resonators in them, which are worth money, and sometimes they have nothing, which is not worth anything, of course. Weapons are never worth it. Armor is never worth it. Jewelry is pretty much never worth it. Currency, you know what it's like trying to drop currency in this game. This usually just drops like Augs, Transmutes, Portal Scrolls, but you never know. You could drop something good, who knows. Gems, you typically get a couple GCPs out of it, not totally worth. Maps, self-explanatory. Underground stash, these strongbox encounters, oftentimes have white strongboxes. And keep in mind, there will be 3 strong boxes usually, and they're all the same. Not usually worth. Harbinger encounters, not worth, and also my least favorite node in Delve, because it's very difficult to do. Very difficult. The Breach encounter, I don't know if it still exists. I hope it does, but I doubt it. Monsters from the Beyond, this is a very difficult encounter that's typically not worth it. Only do if it's in your way. Smuggler Stash, also not typically worth it, because these will give you fossils that you can get anywhere else in the game. The other thing I want to mention is the side passages, like where you blow up the fractured walls with dynamite. These ones right here, which you can see, only do these if you like doing them, is my opinion. Sometimes you get resonators in them that can be worth some money. Oftentimes you don't get much of anything. So if you like blowing up the walls and seeing what's behind them, I kind of do. I think it's fun. Then do them, but just know that they probably won't yield any profit compared to just running through. I'll real quick mention these upgrades. These upgrades, you can upgrade if you want. Just keep in mind that whenever you pay 2,700 Azurite, you're sacrificing X chaos worth 3,000 Azurite. So you just calculate what's worth to you in terms of like how resilient you want to be in the darkness versus how much chaos you would be making by not upgrading these. That's all I'll say about that. Just upgrade it if you want to upgrade it. It mostly comes down to personal preference, in my opinion. All right, that should cover all of the big profit pieces in Delve. Obviously, there's too many nodes and too many smaller points of talking. I don't know if I covered it all. Let me know in the comments if there's any nodes that you really like doing that you think are really profitable, or any of them that I mentioned that you have extra thoughts on. But Delve is how I make most of my money every league, and I do actually come out with a higher amount of profit. I'm slowly converting people in my guild to do more and more Delve, because it's just slow and steady money. The same way that doing Harvest is slow and steady money, Delve is as well. You just have to know what pieces to look for, and then what's worth your time to fight and what's not worth your time. That is all I have for you today. Have a great rest of your morning, day, evening, whatever it is. I hope it's awesome, and I will see you all in the next one. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.